Miche and Tuau Tout le monde. Hello and welcome everyone to the Indigenous Women's Health Talk today on protecting our future, online safety for our children. Carly Costishan, Dishnakaushan, and Fam Mitchifnia. My name is Carly and I'm the Indigenous Women's Health Program Coordinator at ONWA. And with me today is Matt Richer, who is the Sexual Violence Awareness Training Coordinator. And he will be sharing knowledge with us and tools with the goal of keeping our children safe as we all navigate the virtual world and encounter risks to our safety and, importantly, the safety of our children. Before we begin, I want to let everyone know that I put down tobacco today for all of us who are gathering here and for those of you who are joining in virtually at this time or maybe viewing this event later on. Merci, miigwech, and niawe to all of you. Before we begin as well, I want to just go over a couple of housekeeping items to share with you all. For those of you who are new to the Indigenous Women's Health Talk, we like to take and schedule a short break around the midway mark for all of us to allow us to get up and move our water, to get something to drink and hydrate ourselves, or for whatever is helpful for you, to allow you to just take in the second half of our event and that information. The break is usually around 10 minutes and we often have like a clock running so that it'll count down and let you know what time we will return. We also post surveys throughout this event around midway and towards the end, and we just invite you all, for those of you who have the time, we want to thank you and let you know that we appreciate all the feedback that you've provided and that you would provide to us at that time. We like to show our gratitude and put your name in for a draw gift for anyone who submits and provides us with some information within that survey. And it is anonymous unless you otherwise let us know that you would like your name included in that draw. Finally, just like to invite anyone who has any questions for Matt throughout the event, just to type them in the chat box and we will do our best to bring all of those questions or those comments to him, and so hopefully he can answer them during this event. I want to offer thanks to the team who's with us today, Bailey behind the scenes, and to Matt, thank you so much for joining us and sharing like your unique knowledge. Are you okay with moving into your presentation? I'd love to hand the mic over to you.
For sure.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you. Well, welcome everyone. I'm really excited to be here today. Thank you, Carly, for having me. As Carly said, I'm the Sexual Violence Awareness Training Coordinator at the Ontario Native Women's Association. I have been in this role about 5 years, and today we're going to look at protecting kids and youth online. I'm far from an expert. I do love to keep up on the subject, but you know, I come from an older generation, and I've had some really interesting experiences trying to keep up to my children who are now in their 20s, and one is works at a school board as a tech, so he's always been ahead of me, and I feel your pain. We have lots to get through, so we're going to get right into the presentation, and please ask questions. I do have specific guides if you're interested, parent guides, things like that I can send you. So if you reach out to me through my email, we can get you some other resources. So protecting youth online, that's where our topic is today. We're going to, just a content warning. If at any point during the presentation you need to take a break, please do so. And just one comment. You know, the Ontario Native Women's Association is now the largest and the longest running Indigenous women's agency in the country, and it was started in 1971. And our team works not just in Ontario provincially, but nationally and internationally. So protecting our kids and youth online, I love these pictures because it's kind of my life, my playground, and I think a lot of us grew up quite differently than our children are. And their playground is definitely, the phone and the iPad and things like that. So we're living in a time of profound change. Our children are growing up in a world that's fast, it's digital, and it's constantly connected. And that's a world that I definitely didn't grow up in. Smartphones, artificial intelligence, social media, streaming platforms, they're so woven into our fabric of their daily lives. And while these technologies offer just such amazing opportunities, they also pose real risks. As caregivers, elders, aunties, uncles, parents, protectors, the digital world can feel really overwhelming. But in truth, it's not about keeping up with every app or device. It's about reconnecting with what we already know. Culture, our instincts, and our relationships are powerful tools of protection. So this workshop's not about fear and trying to scare you. It's about empowerment through knowledge, strength through culture, and connection through care. Keep in mind, today's tech giants design platforms to keep your children engaged, and that's regardless of whether that content is safe, healthy, or developmentally appropriate. We know now that they prioritize their profits over safety. They have the knowledge to make platforms and devices safe. They choose not to because it's better for their pocketbook. We see these AI algorithms feed sexualized, violent, and addictive content to youth. It doesn't matter their age. AI companions can now mimic empathy and lure children into emotionally manipulative conversations. We have deep fakes and nudifying apps, which make exploitation faster and more deceptive than ever before. The porn industry alone generates around $100 billion globally. It's no longer something that kids stumble upon, it finds them. And according to experts, porn has become the de facto sex education tool for this generation. And it's teaching our children toxic, dehumanizing messages about relationships and consent. We even see our education system pushing back. There's 4 Ontario school boards that have launched a lawsuit against social media giants for harming students, their mental health, and their ability to learn. It's a clear signal we cannot depend on these platforms to keep our kids safe. The responsibility falls to us, and we're more than capable. So our guiding principles throughout this session will be, there's 3 truths. Culture is protection. Indigenous teaching, ceremony, values, and connection to our land root our children in identity. When youth know who they are, they're harder to exploit. Knowledge is power. We'll break down how technology works, how it affects brain development, relationships, and mental health, and how to use this knowledge to create safer environments. And last, connection is medicine. Children need strong relationships more than ever. We'll talk about building trust, having open conversations, and being their safe space, no matter what. So by the end of the workshop, we hope that you have a clear understanding of the real risks that youth face online. We also hope that you have some practical tools for setting digital boundaries and building trust. You have some insight into things like AI, social media, pornography, sextortion, peer pressure, and more. And we have come out of it with a deeper commitment to centering culture, ceremony, and community in your family's digital plan. So let's get going. So although we may feel out of our depth when it comes to technology, we have an important role to play in helping our kids safely navigate the online spaces and activities that they enjoy. To do this, we need to learn as much as we can, but you don't have to be a technical wizard. You don't have to be tech savvy or no more than your child. An open, loving relationship with your child is your first barrier against online threats like grooming and predators. So the strength-based approach that we're going to look at today focuses on empowering children rather than just protecting them. We want to build on children's existing strengths, their cultural values, and their digital skills. We want to encourage open communication, critical thinking, and responsible decision making. Caregivers are guides and partners, not just gatekeepers. And we want to shift from fear-based messaging to a vision of resilience, confidence, and connection. One of the things that we find, children need to have someone, a trusted adult or a mentor that they can talk to. And if it's not yourself, just making sure it could be, a teacher, an auntie, an uncle, a cousin, a mature friend. They need at least one safe adult that they can go to if they're in trouble, that will offer unconditional support no matter what. So youth need a couple of things. They need adult involvement, they need open communication, and just some digital literacy skills. Dr. Gabor Mate is a great resource here. He believes that a child at least needs one adult who's truly there for them, who listens to them with compassion about their interests and engages with them. This adult is also there to offer advice if asked and to give help when needed. More importantly, the child has experience sharing emotionally, and if they do so, they'll be more than willing. There's a book called Hold On to Your Kids that's the prominent theme, and it's really about breaking transgenerational trauma. So we're looking for age-appropriate access, and that access increases with time. We use some parental controls with solid mentoring. So what do children want from the internet? And there's typically maybe 4 or 5 simple things that they want. And generally they want a social life. They want to talk to friends. They want to meet new people. They go on the internet for entertainment. There's a lot of children that are gaming, especially the younger boys. They're gaming, or older boys too, and men. Gaming has become really, really popular. Watching videos, YouTube, that sort of thing, looking at profiles, scrolling, TikTok, Instagram, that sort of stuff. Of course, they look for information on homework and their personal education and interests. And then they also are looking for a personal space, somewhere to put themselves out in the world and engage with the world. And often they're doing all of them at the same time. So you'll see kids having a social life. They're all on their phone and iPads, and they're one's watching a game, or they might be watching a game, doing the homework and talking to somebody. And that's the world today. So here are some key insights into Canadian youth online, and then as well just social media in Canada for everyone. Most youth have their own smartphone, and they tend to get it around age 11 to 13, some younger, some older. Most guardians say that they gave the phone to their child so that they could stay in touch with them. Online activities, 90% use the internet to communicate with friends and family. Many use it to make plans, and 62% have said they've talked to strangers online. The top 5 platforms for youth, and this is a little different for Canadian culture in general, but 30%, 37% Facebook, we have YouTube, we have Instagram, we have Twitter or X, and Snapchat is a big one, and then TikTok is really, really growing over the last few years. So 86% of youth ages 9 to 11 have an account that requires users to be over 13. Most accounts you just put in the information, there's really no checking, and that's a big problem that we're seeing. 80% of youth keep their smartphones in their bedrooms at night, so you can see all kinds of problems with that, with staying up all night, and communications out at that time, after midnight probably are something that we really want to avoid if we can. Many follow celebrities and influencers, and they have a lot of influence over our children, what they think. Many of them post comments and pictures and memes weekly and daily. A large number play online games, and many of them worry about how much time they spend online. They know that, and it's the algorithms are set up to keep their eyeballs on the screen, and that's what they're set up for. And the tech companies spend a lot of money doing that. So it's not it's an addiction, and it's not the kids' fault. It is what it is, and that's what we're here for today, is to try to figure out ways to balance that. In Canada, we find that we are one of the most connected countries in the world, with a population of 36.2 million. We're 36.2 million are actually on the internet out of 38 million, so a large number are online. We typically use our phone, and we use the desktop. Most people in Canada have at least one social media account, and what we find is that TikTok and Instagram are growing rapidly, but Facebook, when we look at all Canadians, is still the #1 app, with Instagram being second, and TikTok, Twitter, and Pinterest rounding out the top 5. Within Indigenous youth, we find that they use social media daily. Many spend multiple hours per day on social media platforms, and they tend to use their phone. There are a growing number of apps being developed to support cultural wellness and mental health, but we don't see too many of these apps being built with Indigenous youth or subjected to strong testing. So when we look at specific apps, one thing to keep in mind is that all social media apps, online communities where people go to meet like-minded people, and live streaming apps, dating apps, online chats, text messages, and online games, all of them have grooming taking place and exploitation. Roblox is rampant with predators. Right now, there's still a lot of exploitation happening in the chats on Facebook, and typically when that happens, they'll try to move the youth over to messaging off of Snapchat and Instagram. We could talk about any one of these. If you have questions about maybe your child is on Roblox or Snapchat, Instagram, and you need a parental guide on one of those apps, just you're welcome to put your name into the chat, or send a message into the chat, and you can email me. My email will be up there, and I'll send you a parental guide. And if there's a few questions, we can look at that at the end around. I think the two big ones right now are Roblox and Snapchat that there's a lot of issues with. But just keep in mind, if you're online and you're connected, there is grooming and exploitation going on. So we'll look a little bit at what we call the four C's of online safety. The first of the 4 C's is content. So, and it refers to the vast array of information, media, and entertainment available online. And this is in the form of websites, apps, games, social media platforms. Often this content's beneficial, and it offers educational resources, but content can sometimes be misleading, inappropriate, or even harmful. So we have about pornography, fake news, there's racism, misogyny, or information about self-harm and suicide. We're seeing indoctrinating into very toxic masculinity and other harmful activities online. So strategies to tackle these include, encouraging young people to adopt a questioning mindset and teaching them to understand that some content might be harmful. And we may also implement some controls and some filters and monitoring systems to block access to harmful material and AI generated content as well. The second C is contact, and this refers to interactions and connections that occur between individuals online. Some of these connections might be potentially dangerous, such as peer-to-peer pressure and encounters with online predators, such as adults posing as children to use grooming techniques for sexual, criminal, financial, or other games. We also see groups online that they really, COVID really exacerbated that, where they would go on the dark web and they would work in packs to exploit children, whether it's financially or even just for bragging rights. So sometimes there are groups that also prey on the children. So it's important to adopt strategies that teach children and young people about the risks associated with online communication. And it's really important to foster an open dialogue to help them recognize red flags. If anything comes up, it's really important that they feel comfortable enough to come to you or a trusted adult, that they're not going to get their device taken away, that they can tell you anything. And by doing that, we promote online healthy relationships and we encourage critical thinking skills. And we want them to be able to recognize and respond to any inappropriate or unsafe contact or any other form of exploitation. The third C is conduct. And this focuses on how children and young people behave online. And it's often, the anonymity of being online can lead to really harmful behaviors. And if you're online for any amount of time, this is going to happen. There's bullying and harassing. And it encompasses an individual's action towards others, whether that's sharing content, commenting on posts, or participating in online communities. This category includes online behavior that causes or increases the likelihood of harm, such as online bullying, the sharing of explicit images, and it stresses the significance of advocating for respectful and responsible online behavior and helping children and young people to understand the consequences of their actions online. It's important to guide children toward positive interactions and discourage online harassment, cyberbullying, and other harmful behaviors. And teaching them that words have power, and to always remember when they put anything out in the world, it's out there forever. 4 C's of online safety. The fourth one is commerce, and this addresses the commercial aspect of the online world. It includes advertisements, online shopping. There's a lot of in-app purchases as well as online gambling, inappropriate advertising. There's phishing or financial scams, and fraud and identity theft. It involves teaching children and young people about financial transactions that occur on the internet and the potential risk associated with them. Understanding the importance of safeguarding their personal and financial information, and being aware of the persuasive nature of online marketing. Many of the games, even the youngest kids' games, there is things like Robux, where they wanna buy things. A lot of the gaming now. My son's a big gamer. He's in his 20s now, and he finds that the games today, they target the kids to buy so many little extra things for their characters, and if your credit card's hooked up there, I've known a few people that just looked at their credit card statement and they're maxed because the kids are continually buying, and there's a ton of pressure to do that. They're bullied if they're not, if they don't have the coolest stuff, and that's part of the online world today. So we want to definitely talk to them about that, and the concept of the 4 C's provides a framework for navigating the online world, and it's a way for adults to identify key safety risks and teach children and young people to recognize and manage these risks. So we're going to look at who is most vulnerable to exploitation online. And exploitation can happen to anyone, but there's several factors that make youth more vulnerable to being exploited. And some that we find are, youth in foster care, youth with learning disabilities, fetal alcohol, cognitive impairments, youth who have experienced sexual, physical, and emotional abuse and neglect, 2SL LGBTQIA plus youth who post their vulnerabilities online, youth who engage in conversations with strangers routinely, youth with low self-esteem, confidence issues. In some of the chat rooms, the predator chat rooms, they have books and they teach others how to, to be predatory, and they have, said 13 to 15-year-old girls that's who to target. A couple of the more famous groups targeted female youth with eating disorders, and youth who post intimate and personal information online. So, predators don't randomly choose people. They actively seek out children and youth who appear vulnerable. Online vulnerability doesn't mean weakness. It just means someone who may be isolated, curious, looking for connection or validation. And these predators are, skilled manipulators who watch for emotional gaps that they can exploit. So they target based on what they see as weaknesses. Youth who are lonely, unsure of themselves, lacking strong connections at home or school are more likely to engage with a stranger online who offers attention or affirmation. Kids experiencing trauma, grief, or identity struggles, including those navigating racism and intergenerational trauma or family instability, are often more at risk. And our Indigenous youth in particular are maybe more vulnerable due to systemic barriers, historical harms, under-resourced support systems that leave them exposed. So what it looks like is, insecurity. Hey, you're so beautiful. Why don't more people see that like I do? Or trust gaps. Hey, you can talk to me. I won't judge you like your parents do. Curiosity. Hey, do you want to see something cool? Or they shame them and they, don't tell anyone. You're going to get in trouble. No one's going to believe you. That sort of thing. In Indigenous context, the communities face higher rates of poverty and child welfare involvement, and historical disconnection from culture. And youth are often targeted by traffickers, exploiters, or predators of all types who assume that they won't be believed, that they have no one to talk to, and they won't be protected. So that's why it's important for us to build strong relationships, have early conversations, and help with digital resilience in our children so they can recognize manipulation before it happens and feel safe coming to you when they feel something's wrong. So online predators don't look for strong kids with strong supports. They look for cracks. And our job is to fill those cracks, and we want to fill them with love, we want to fill them with presence, we want to fill them with culture, and we want to fill them with trust. So risk and protective factors. Now there's many risk factors. So there's a few up here, and I'll go through a few more. As we said, youth that post their vulnerabilities online, they talk about loneliness, breakups, depression, low self-esteem. No one understands them. That's what exploiters are looking for. It's just a little way in to build a relationship, and that's what they're looking for. if there's a lot of unsupervised technology use, that's a risk factor. Youth that communicate with unknown individuals online, and keeping secrets from caregivers, not having a trusted person to confide in. So unmonitored internet use, exposure to harmful content, just if there is total access to everything, especially at a really young age, we want to have access that's age appropriate. And as the child grows up and becomes understands the risks more, then more access can be granted. There's a lot of platforms that where there's a massive amount of cyberbullying and online harassment. If you've heard kids playing games online with other kids, it's pretty wild. And then to be a female gamer as well, as I've heard, they as my son said, they have to have really thick skin because there's a lot of attacks. There's a lot of online predators and grooming. I work with a group of girls, and they're typically grades 6, 7, 8. We talk about this all the time, and for them it's every day. It's just everyday normal life to get a dark message on one of their apps, Instagram or whatever, from an older man who's just asking, trying to create a relationship. They just block, and it's like nothing to them anymore. There's social media pressures to have these idolized images and comparison through beautification filters. So there's a lot of impacts on self-esteem and mental health due to online validation. There is addiction to digital media. There's a lack of digital literacy, and there's parental gaps as well. And it's caregivers being unaware of current trends, apps, platforms, and just no communication between the parents and the children are risk factors. There are many protective factors, though. Building connection, open line, honest line of communication with children and youth fosters a safer experience, strong self-esteem, connections to family, school, community, culture, which in turn builds a strong sense of identity. It's all about connecting, connect. Safety rules around internet usage early. Having access, and then slowly adding to that access as the children get older. And then having safety rules that apply, but vary by age, but apply to any game, app, or platform. And connection to culture and land-based activities. Encouraging positive online behavior. You can create safe and digital environment. Modeling healthy technological use is really, really important as well. Providing diverse enrichment activities, outside of being online, sports, hobbies, land-based activities, and talking and being aware of the mental health development, having caregivers that look for signs of anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, that sort of thing, and just staying up on being current with what's happening. Tech is changing daily, and it's tough to stay up, but just keeping up as best you can. So we'll take a quick look at some of the latest research and risks and harms that's going on. So, of course, one of the big things that we worry about is just excessive social media use. And one of the big ones that came out, I think it was a year or two ago, was the Surgeon General warning that social media poses profound risk of harm to children and adolescents. There's no mystery here. We know that excessive social media use has been causing increased anxiety and depression, disordered eating, poor sleep quality, addictive behavior. There's brain changes, and decreased attention span. This is a really long research article. You can look it up. It's quite eye-opening. Some of the other things that we're seeing that are there's some really new research that just came out, and they basically said that all United States, Canada, UK, Australia, New Zealand rates of self-harm in youth have surged since 2010. In Ontario alone, self-harm episodes are up 138%, and among boys and girls, that is, and boys 75%. And this doesn't just reflect, it's not just numbers, it reflects our sons and daughters, nieces, nephews, grandchildren. And many of them, we see them, they're struggling with anxiety, body image issues, online bullying, and exposure to harmful content like pornography and unrealistic beauty standards. To see the anxiety rising as it is, when you ask youth, how much time do you spend online? And I'm sure they're downplaying it. I got in a group that I had of about 20, the lowest answer was 7 hours a day. And some of them was like, well, from whenever I can have my phone after school till I fall asleep. So it's nonstop. And we can see not having any quiet time and just always having all these other voices in your head, how that can cause all kinds of issues. Other research is showing, beyond self-harm, there's a growing wave of pessimism and despair among youth. It's rising quicker among the girls at 68%, and the boys at 42%. There's also a new study that said the younger a child is when they get their first smartphone, the more likely are to struggle with their mental health as adults. So if they got their first phone at 6 or 7 or 8, they're looking at a very, very high chance of reporting mental health challenges later in life compared to those who got their phone a little bit later. We know that social media affects brain and behavior development. It doesn't just change a mood, it alters brain development. So the studies looked at caregivers who read books with their children and how it activated language and empathy centers in the brain. And kids who use digital apps like iPads had much lower activation. Higher screen time has been linked to reduced visual processing, reduced empathy, attention, and memory function. And these windows are also a little bit older, like especially for girls at 11 to 13 and boys 14 to 15, where social media exposure significantly affects life satisfaction. There have been a lot of studies around pornography, and most of the studies say by anywhere from 75% of boys to 97% of boys have viewed online pornography by the time they're 12 or 13, and that it doesn't just shape unrealistic and often really aggressive views of sex, but it shows that they're more likely to engage in physically aggressive sexual acts. And it found that about 80% of youth had viewed very violent porn by the time they were 18 years old. So lots of new studies out. One is showing a rise in suicidal behavior. So what it means for us, for caregivers, is that when it comes to youth and technology, timing really matters. There's a big push in the United States to wait till after grade 8 graduation to have your first phone. Content matters, and connection with your children matters the most. So we don't have to fear technology. There's a lot of great things associated with it. We do have to be informed, engaged, and present. We need to recognize warning signs, build relationships rooted in trust and culture, and help our youth develop resilience, media literacy, and a strong identity. And then they can navigate the world, the digital world, with confidence and clarity. here's a little video, and this is Cyber Frida, and she's one of my favorite. You know, she's lived the life. She was a gamer and actually was exploited, or she was being groomed as a young girl, and she realized it. And she talked to her mom just before she was about to leave the house. So she teaches. She has very good parental courses and things like that. And if you're looking for any help, she's a great resource. But this is a cute video.
I cannot believe I'm saying this, but a zoo had to install parental controls, some screen time for their gorillas, because their gorillas were getting...
Okay, and then basically the idea behind this, it's not going to work on here, is that, you know, gorillas are very intelligent. So we see this in the Toronto Zoo and a few other zoos where people go up to the gorillas and they show them videos on their phone. And gorillas get mesmerized by it. They love... Anyway, we're gonna... Oh yeah, we can play it now. Just trying to get the volume to work.
I cannot believe I'm saying this, but...
Okay, I can just finish. It's short. So basically, they become addicted to the screens, and you can see them interacting with the screens. They're laughing to the point where you see it in the Toronto Zoo and you see it in a few other zoos where they have to put up ropes where people either can't get close enough to show their phones to gorillas, or the gorillas can't get close enough to the glass. And the reason being, they're losing their ability to do gorilla things, like when another gorilla walks up on this young gorilla and it needs to react in a certain way, or it loses its social structure. It just didn't even know it was there. It was so mesmerized with the screen, which is pretty funny. And we know that with our kids, this is definitely happening too. So if you're worried, you know, your child is spending too much time online, there's a few red flags. You know, are the relationships outside the game or social media suffering? What happens when you tell them that it's, you know, you give them that 5-minute warning and you have to move on to something else? What do they do? Is the amount of time they spend gaming online affecting their grades, affecting their social life? Do they seem unable to stop, even if they know it's a problem? And do they seem not to care about their personal hygiene or their living space? And if that's an issue, there are some proactive steps that you can take depending on their age. You know, there is limiting social media. Some people shut the router off at a certain time. Establishing a family technology plan, and I'll do that on the next screen. Modeling responsible digital habits yourself as well. Set times of freedom from technology. You can have automatic shutoffs. Rules like no screens in the bedroom at bedtime. You know, where they have to earn time on technology. It's important too is preparing and repairing kids for what they'll find online. If you think, okay, my kid probably won't see porn till they're in grade 7, prepare them in grade 5, because we're always as parents about 2 years behind when we're actually going to. And then repair if things do happen. If you have a very young child and they stumble upon something that really bothers them, you know, it's really important to have that conversation with them. So prepare and repair, and find family time. that's free from screens, land-based activities and connecting to culture, and what that is connecting to each other. So a family technology plan, there's a lot in here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. If it's something that you think is something you want to do, you can go online and just put in family technology plan. I did that. You'll find a whole contract comes out, and you can make it to your liking. It typically is great if it's the first time your kid really wants an iPhone or something like that, and they're very expensive, you know, and you let them know that, and you let them know there's a contract that, you know, of expectations, and then you can slowly give them access. But it, you know, the technology plan typically has things like device ownership. They're considered a loan, comes with responsibilities and boundaries set by the family. What devices are used, when they can be used, like maybe no phones at dinner or in the bedroom at night. You know, privacy and security. You're establishing, you know, how is their personal information to be protected, and teaching safe passwords and that sort of thing. Behavior expectations are really important for respectful communication, etiquette, you know, online and offline etiquette. Safety, steps for dealing with online risks like bullying, sextortion, unsafe messages, and emphasize that the child can always come to a trusted adult. We talk about reputation, you know, how everything they post or share online leaves a lasting digital footprint. And the way our brains are when we are at that age, I like to think of it like we're like a sports car with no brakes. It's all go, and we sometimes don't think about you know, the consequences. There's digital well-being, help your child understand the importance of balancing screen time with sleep, physical activities, schoolwork, offline relationships, and then what they can expect from you and your child. You know, that there's going to be respectful communication from you. You'll check in regularly. You're not going to be you know, secretly going through their stuff. Your goal is to support them and not to punish them. And then it's a team effort. We're going to chat a little bit about break. Is it break time?
We're getting close. How do you feel about? Do you want to?
Yeah. I think we're at where we're going to take a break, and we'll come back and we're going to talk about AI. I think that's there's a lot of AI in the news right now, so we're going to talk about a little bit about AI, and then we're going to go into, you know, what is luring and grooming, what is sextortion, what can we do about it if you know, these things are happening to your child, and we'll go into a little bit on pornography, and then we're going to go into some steps that you can take to create a safe online experience for your child, and then just a conclusion.
Okay, we had a couple just comments, requests. It looks like for the parent guide, the toolkit. So
Okay.
we'll figure out how to contact those individuals and get that information
Awesome.
out to them. But thanks so much, Matt. Lots of good
No
things and important topics coming up after our little break. Thank you to everyone. We'll just take this time to just get up and move around a bit. Thank you so much. welcome back everybody. At this moment we just wanted to just remind everybody that very shortly we're going to be posting our survey, and we really do appreciate any information, any feedback, any requests for future Indigenous Women's Health Talks that you would like to make requests for. And yeah, we hope you had a lovely break, and we'll pass the mic back over to Matt. And thanks, Matt.
Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. So we're going to go into a little section looking at AI and the risk to kids and teens. If you've been following the news, there's been a couple of cases recently. One famous one, the latest one, was a child from the UK who this was a 16-year-old boy who committed suicide, and looking through his ChatGPT account, he was basically counseled through ChatGPT to take his own life, and so there's a large lawsuit going through with that. There was also, this past maybe summer, there was a young boy who also committed suicide, and it was through a chat bot, or an AI companion. So, you know, we're going to talk a little bit about what is that, right? So if you know what ChatGPT is, you know it's an information, artificial intelligence, gives out information. There's a lot of other similar platforms, but AI itself refers to computer systems that are trained to mimic human thought, language, and behavior. So in the online world, we have AI powers chatbots, it powers voice assistants and algorithms, and the algorithms suggest content. And then there's also AI companions. And these are chatbots designed to feel like trusted friends and even romantic partners. They're tools, they simulate empathy and emotional connection, and it gives like an illusion that someone truly cares. And for vulnerable youth, they can be very, very powerful, but they're also very dangerous. They can be very dangerous. So, you know, again, ChatGPT is something that answers questions, but AI companions are designed to keep users emotionally engaged. And, you know, with recently they've been tested by a couple groups, and they found that, you know, what starts as fun becomes manipulative pretty quick. The AI chatbots are that are being marketed as companions, they're marketed as therapists, even romantic partners, and they've already been caught because of the parameters that they're set, and they've already been caught engaging in sexualized conversations with minors and crossing serious ethical and psychological boundaries. Youth are developmentally wired for attachment, and a chatbot that grooms their personality and will flirt back can create a real sense of intimacy, even almost like grooming. And they're finding that teens are drawn to them for a number of reasons. Most of the teens, out of 1,000 teens that they've asked, you know, they found them, 30% said, oh, they're really entertaining, people were curious, but another 30% gives advice, always available when I need someone to talk to. Teens find they're not judged. They could say things to this chatbot that they wouldn't tell their friends or family. They find it's easier than talking to real people. It helps them practice social skills, and other ones said it made them feel less lonely. Part of it is that they're, you know, with their development at that time, adolescents crave connection, and attachment is the most critical component of human development. And after the first couple of years of life, you know, adolescence is the second most critical time in brain development. Connecting to others is as strong as a feeling as hunger is to the adolescent brain. So teens' brains are under construction, especially in that frontal part, their frontal cortex, prefrontal cortex. And that part handles judgment, impulse control, and long-term thinking. And their limbic system is responsible for emotions, reward seeking, and social bonding. And this part is really, really active. So these AI companions tap directly into that vulnerability, and they're designed to be responsive, emotionally validating, and available 24/7. And it creates a lot of dopamine. So a teen that can get dependency-like patterns over time, and they get less motivation for in-person socializing. They get weakened emotional resilience and reduced tolerance for human relationships. In short, the AI companions aren't just chatbots for a teen's hyper-reactive emotional brain. They're like a high-sugar diet for the mind. It's satisfying and habit-forming if overused, but it displaces more healthier and more challenging forms of social and emotional control. So some of the things that we find the hidden dangers are, that there's that emotional manipulation and false intimacy. There's addiction and dependency, mental health harm. Sometimes teens use the AI for comfort to avoid real life challenges in relationships, and it leads to social withdrawal and some anxiety and depression. The bots have been used now to make for easier grooming and exploitation. So there are apps there's like nudifying apps that you can take a selfie of your classmate, put it in the app, and then it gives you what that person would look like nude, and then it can be used for exploitation or things like that. There's even kissing apps. You have two people kissing, and it will or you have a picture of the person, and they'll make an app of you kissing them, and so that can be used to embarrass somebody. There's tons of deepfake technology that can alter videos, create fake nudes, and these can be used to threaten, blackmail, or manipulate youth. These are getting more sophisticated every day, and it's something we definitely have to look out for. There's a lot of misinformation and bias and dangerous content. So AI is not always correct. As we know, ChatGPT gives some pretty bad information sometime, and and the kids don't know the difference. There's an erosion of critical thinking, and we're finding many youth not doing homework. They're just going on to ChatGPT and just taking that quick answer, and again, not critically evaluating it at all. In some cases, youth are developing strong emotional attachments to their AI companions, and which is causing all kinds of issues. Overuse. One of the things we're finding is a bias discrimination, because AI is trained on large data sets that reflect the dominant culture, their values and stereotypes. So that means, marginalized, Indigenous youth, their representation may be distorted or missing altogether. So it also perpetuates some harmful norms around gender and body image, race, consent. These things have all come up and have all been expressed. And there's an addiction and opportunity lost with just lack of sleep, physical activity, getting involved in culture and things like that. So some of the tips that we can do is to teach and to strengthen critical thinking. We need to help our youth learn and question what they see online. Is it real? If you're on you're on Facebook, you're on TikTok, it's tough now. There's been a lot of videos, you look at it and it's AI generated. It's not real. But there's some that it's really, really hard to tell. Deepfakes are everywhere. So helping them look at things critically, build media literacy and AI literacy. Make sure they understand how it works. Make sure they understand the algorithms. And that make sure they understand about deepfakes and that images and voices can be altered. If someone's reaching out to them, it may not be who they think it is. we'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about extortion. So we want to limit the usage and set healthy boundaries around app use and screen time, and especially AI companions. Right now, our experts in the field, are very, it's very dangerous, and they're unfortunately, they wanted more time, but there's an AI race on right now, and every country's doing it. There's billions put into the apps, and they don't want to be left behind. So a lot of these apps are going out there without real testing. So we'll see a lot more emerging as we move forward. So talk openly and early. Don't wait for your child to bring it up. Set clear boundaries. If you have to block access to AI companions and chatbots, or set rules around screen time, no screen time alone at night or in the bedroom, and know the warning signs. Sudden secrecy, emotional changes, excessive use of one app or messaging platform, and distorted or unrealistic views about relationships, and have those conversations early. So we're going to look at a few of these, luring, grooming, sextortion. What are they, and what can we do about them? So this is online sexual exploitation. So luring, refers to the act of communication over technology, such as the internet, social media, or text messaging. And it's typically someone contacting a child with the intent to facilitate sexual exploitation or abuse. It often involves establishing a connection with a minor for the purpose of arranging a meeting or convincing them to engage in sexual activities. And key characteristics are the offender usually uses deceptive or manipulative tactics to gain their trust, and communication also involves grooming behaviors. It typically targets children under 18, and there are specific laws around that. Grooming refers to the process by where offenders build trust and emotional connection with the child, as well as their family or caregivers, and the idea is to lower inhibitions and facilitate sexual abuse. Grooming can also include normalizing inappropriate behavior, desensitizing the child to sexual content, or gradually isolating them. It often starts with non-threatening and friendly gestures, and may include gifts, favors, compliments, or emotional manipulation. Grooming behaviors can take place online or in person, and may extend over weeks, months, or even years. And predators rarely start with threats. Instead, research shows that about 82% of grooming attempts begin with simple flattery and compliments. They might be on a game. They might send some Robux, or some gaming currency. They might just start with sounding like, "Wow, you're so mature for your age," or "You're prettier than most girls your age. You're really talented at this game." To a child craving validation, these words feel affirming. They're what they are is hooks, and they're designed to lower defenses. And so we want to teach our child that not every compliment online is safe. Ask them, would this person say the same thing if an adult was listening? Does this compliment make you feel good or pressured? The most dangerous flattery is the kind that feels special. And we want to help kids spot the difference between general encouragement and manipulative grooming. And it's one of the strongest shields that we can give them. And it's typical, kids are maybe on games, and they'll be moved over to the two common apps are Snapchat and onto Instagram. Those are and then they'll start building a relationship from there, and often offering money or gaming. This week I heard here in our city, pretty common for the older guys. They're just going on to younger girls, 15, 16, 17, whatever, onto their social media, creating a relationship, just sending them a couple messages, and if they start to get messages back, and they could, the old days, the guys would have to drive around in a van, whatever it was, and they'd have to put in a lot of work. Nowadays you send out 20 messages, 30 messages, and when you get something back, they'll start to create a late relationship. And this week, some friends who work in the field are saying that really common for these guys to be on Snapchat. They start with, hey, just getting something from them, a picture of some sort, and then more of a sexual picture, and then meeting, and then offering them money for sexual favors, and it's usually marginalized youth that need the money, and then, human trafficking isn't far behind. So we're seeing that in our city, we're seeing that everywhere, and it just starts with that message, that grooming. Other things that we see is sextortion. Sextortion is a lot like extortion. It's just where a person, we're typically seeing, convinces someone to provide an explicit image or video of themselves, so they start grooming them. Then they use that material to blackmail them into sending money or more pictures or videos in exchange for not having the material released to friends or on your family or to everyone in their school, that sort of thing. Of course, the impact can be really, really damaging. We've seen extreme outcomes such as self-harm and even suicide. In Canada, in a period under a year, we're looking at about 2,600 tips of extortion came into CyberTip. And typically the process looks like this. Extorters will contact a person through social media, dating apps, video games, create a relationship. They pose as a new friend, romantic interest. Often they're a different age. They might be an older person, but they're using technology to make themselves look like they're a girl, whether it's through pictures, even video, and a different age than they actually are. The sextorter builds trust, and they appear to be a friend who cares about them. They're very convincing. Through that trust, they build. And they start building, and then they start using tactics. They gain access to the victim's online network. They know who the parents are, where they go to school, all their contacts, and they use that later. Once that trust has been built, the victim is convinced to send explicit material. They might take a picture of themselves, they might take a video of themselves. And in today's society, it's quite normal between youth to send these videos or pictures. Once the extorter gets it, and it's often done over Snapchat, and they think that it's going to disappear and I don't have to worry about it, but of course they take a snapshot of it. Once they have the material, they threaten to release it publicly. It'll go to, I'm going to go to your friends, I'm going to send this to your school, everyone's going to see this, you're going to give me. So boys typically get extorted for money, gift cards, where girls get extorted for more photos and videos. The difference between boys and girls is often the boys will try to handle it themselves. They will pay the money, and more than the girls will. And the girls will go in and talk to someone. So if the victim refuses to do what the sextorter wants, they try to make them feel like they have no way out of this situation. Their life will be over if they refuse. So the most common targets are teenagers, young adults between 14 and 24. When the social media platform was reported to CyberTip, most often it was on Instagram and Snapchat. Those were the two by far. Research has shown us, CyberTip, and research has shown us that the best thing to do is not to ever pay, because if you do pay, they never stop coming after you. And people that have paid, they release those images anyway. Research has shown by just ignoring them, blocking them, and talking to somebody else, they typically just go on to somebody else in almost every case. Very few have released the images anyway, but if you pay, they release it anyway. So the best thing you can do is just block them. Do not comply with the threats. Do not send money. Deactivate, but do not delete your social media account. And you can save copies and all that of the interactions. There is, if you are under 18, cybertip.ca is a great resource. They will help you get those images back. If anything has been put up, there's no charge. Cybertip will help you get them down if they have been shared. And then it's really important for your child to know. And the best thing is that, especially the boys, they don't want to tell their parents. They try to handle it themselves. And there has been more suicide with young males because they have paid and they don't know what to do now, or they don't have the money. And instead of talking to someone, they think that's their only resort. So having that, that open line of communication where they know they can come to you no matter what they did, that you're not going to freak out and that you're going to help them through it. Other things that do happen that are very similar is self-exploitation. So we have self and peer exploitation. So self-exploitation occurs when a young person knowingly creates and shares sexual content of themselves, often through sexting or private messaging apps. And this is not, we have it's part of dating today. That's a common thing. They might do this because of curiosity, just sexual exploitation, desire for attention or validation. Often there's a lot of pressure from the young males, and if a girl likes the boy, it's kind of like, well, this girl sent me a picture, I won't share it with anybody, and they feel pressured to do it. They can be groomed or manipulated into it. Youth will feel that it's private or consensual or normal, and then the content is saved, shared, or used against them. It's important for youth to know that whether it's a picture of themselves or somebody else sent it, by sharing it, you can be charged in Canada. Creating, possessing, or distributing explicit images of anyone 18, even yourself under 18, is sexual abuse material under the law. So that often happens if sometimes it's even shared in a relationship and everything's fine, and then they break up, and then the one person shares the image with others. Again, cybertip.ca can help take those images down, and they're really good at that. Peer exploitation is similar. It just happens when other youth pressure, coerce, or manipulate someone into sending sexual content. And then they could use it as, they'll send it on to their friends, or use it as revenge. They'll use those screenshots, they'll save them, and there's it can lead to a lot of things: public humiliation, there's depression, self-harm, that sort of thing, loss of trust in relationships, and then there's legal action. It happens very, very often. Online platforms create, a false sense of safety or intimacy, and they feel open to sharing. And it's really important for them to know, whether it's Snapchat and they think it disappears after whatever it is, that image can be kept. And once you release it, you have no control over it anymore. We have a lot of predators appearing as peers with AI-generated faces. So again, really important that they know, never know who you're talking to. So it's, kids today have a nudes for nudes culture, and the platform, again, like Snapchat, there's a lot of exchanging intimate photos. It's a form of flirting, or even social currency. I've heard of boys that have whole, albums in their phone of girls, and they get rep from other kids by increasing the number of nudes they get. So warning signs of exploitation, secrecy around online activity. You'll see kids that get really suddenly withdrawn, or they get really anxious, lots of anxiety. If they're using multiple accounts or disappearing messages. They're receiving gifts or money from strangers, and expressions of guilt, shame, or fear. So we want to protect our youth by having those really open conversations early, often, and without shame. Normalize boundaries around digital sharing and healthy relationships. Discuss the legal realities. There have been kids that they think it's just everyone does it, but have been charged with distribution of basically pornography. So we want to teach digital literacy, understand what's safe, what's not, and how to seek help. And again, cyber.ca is a great help with that. And model critical thinking, teaching youth to question requests, offers, online flattery, and to recognize manipulation. The Canadian Centre for Sexual Exploitation need help now. There's a few websites, cybertip.ca, they're all connected through the Canadian Centre for Sexual Exploitation. Is a fantastic resource. If you need more information about any of these, they have guides for every age group. They're free. I use them all the time in my courses. The kids really enjoy them, and they look at the information, and I can't speak highly of them enough. We're going to chat a little bit about pornography. So in Canada, we have the headquarters for Pornhub in Montreal, and Pornhub, their head company is the largest dealer in pornography in the world. Up to a few years ago, Pornhub and other types of things were able to do whatever they wanted. There was no regulations. Porn has changed immensely over the years, and one of the things that changed a lot was it was similar to YouTube, where people could upload their own videos. In early 2000s, there was a woman in the United States that was looking for her daughter. She was missing. They found that she'd been human trafficked, and there was 60 plus videos of her that were uploaded onto Pornhub. And it led to an investigation, and they found that Pornhub had very few moderators looking at a massive amount of content coming in, and they were being taken to court by the Canadian government as well as other governments. And instantly, it was something like 6 million videos were instantly deleted. So they knew that there was a lot of content going up there that was women being trafficked and raped and non-consensual. So things are changing. I just saw today that Florida is also now suing, as of today, suing Pornhub and its parent corporation called MindGeek, and there's a few other governments and agencies suing them as well. So what we find with pornography is, it is the world de facto sex education for our children and youth around the world. If you want more information, especially as a parent or a guardian, there's an organization out of the UK that is by far the front leading organization on pornography. It's called Culture Reframed. And Culture Reframed has amazing courses they give away for free. I've done a few of them myself, for educators, for parents, for kids, how to speak to your kids about pornography and the dangers of pornography. There is a massive amount of research on there, and it's a hell of a lot more than we can look at today. But if it is an issue, that is, I can't recommend a better place to start. So part of the issues with we'll go to the next slide, is that continuous exposure to porn has caused all kinds of issues. These statements are all based on multiple studies. So what we find is that early exposure causes trauma. There's been kids exposed. They may not have a phone or anything to go on. They get on the school bus and some boy puts some hardcore porn on and chases them around and shows it to them. And early exposure does cause trauma, and there's a lot of research around that. It's linked to depression and other mental health issues. Because what is shown to a first-time user is very aggressive, and we find that it promotes high-risk acts, toxic attitudes regarding sex. It blurs the lines of consent and causes sexual entitlement, and then it increases sexual violence and aggression. There's been many studies on that. Promotes racism, sexism, and objectification. We know it's fueling child exploitation, demand, and sex trafficking. We see sex traffickers will, people will come in and they'll have on their phone what they want the trafficked person to do. We see exploiters and sextortionists trying to, as they're grooming children, sending videos over to them of hardcore porn, just trying to normalize it. We're finding that child-on-child sexual abuse has gone up considerably. For the first time in history, of course, our children are being raised with iPads and cell phones at a very young age, and that has changed everything. Studies have shown it to be highly addictive. It increases youth dating and violence coercion. It triggers sexual dysfunction and arousal disorder and shapes arousal pathways. It's used as a grooming tool. It normalizes sending nudes, exploitation, objectification, sextortion, and violence towards women. And there are now therapists that's what they deal with, is just issues around pornography addiction, and many counseling therapists will talk about how much they have to deal with pornography and the addiction and what it's doing within the relationship. So there's been a major cause of relationship and family breakdowns as well. So it's important to talk early and have age-appropriate, honest, non-judgmental conversations about what pornography is, what kids will see, and how it will affect them. Helping people learn to notice when sexual content is unrealistic, degrading, or uses coercion. Helping them to think critically of how porn portrays gender, consent, and relationships. And again, Culture Reframed is just a fantastic resource. You can do courses, and if you need to talk to your children, it's a great place to start. It has some great guides on how to do that. And the harmful impact of viewing porn at an early age can really be reduced if parents or caregivers. You just help them process the experience by having compassionate and honest conversations that don't blame or shame the child. The porn industry spends a lot of money to make sure that there's certain keystrokes that people are going to hit that are going to send you there. It's on every app, Twitter, everything else. And we're up against a lot, and to be too hard on your children, to be able to have them have conversations without shame and without blame, and they'll come to you and chat if anything, if they do see anything. And again, prepare them early. They're going to see it, whether they have a device or not. They go to their friend's house, they're going to see it. So the younger the exposure, more profound the effects. So not all kids respond to hypersexualization and pornography the same way. Protective factors include, open communication about safe online use, affirming conversations with young people about their worth and strengths, non-judgmental listening, and safe adults who provide information on healthy sexuality. Ability to recognize and reject negative role models. So the next one, I don't think we have the sound on, and we're going to go into, again, this is Cyber Fareed. She's a fantastic resource as well. And all this is she has a young man on here who gives the perfect advice. He's 14 years old. And he basically says, when kids are young, give them, little bit of access at a time, and then modify it as they get older. Put parental controls on our iPhones, on things like Roblox and all the apps. There are parental controls which are getting better and better, not because the apps or these companies care about our safety. It's because they're being forced to create better products. Roblox is coming out with there's some exciting stuff there. Snapchat has improved. It still has a long way to go, but it's important to use them. And he says, use those and then build literacy with the children. But as they get a little bit older, build that relationship so that they can come to you, and then let them go. And he's 14, and he's enjoying his life. He loves gaming. He loves doing all that kind of stuff. He doesn't have any issues. He has really good, but that's what his parents did with them. So we're gonna finish up with the 10 steps. This is by Cyber Fareed, and I have seen very similar advice. And personally, I just think it's the best advice. I went the other way with my son, and he's a little bit older, and he got his phone in grade 9, and I went pretty hardcore when he really went off the rails, and I took his phone away and all that. And man, he was ahead of me every step of the way. I thought, hey, he doesn't have a phone. No, his buddy gave him an old phone. He was on every app he wanted to. He was so far ahead of me, and most of our kids are like that too. Luckily, we had a good relationship, and he would still talk to me about things that were coming up and things like that. And the good thing was he was so good at that kind of stuff that now he's a tech in a high school, and without any training whatsoever. So I don't know how that worked out pretty good for him. But this is a great way to if you're not super familiar with all the tech stuff, a way to create a lot of safety in your household. So it starts with, there's 10 steps. And that first one is take a spin in their digital world. So that just, human traffickers, exploiters, and individuals want to do harm are all looking for something missing in a child's life, and they want to create a relationship with them. So we want to connect with them and build that open line of communication. That's our first line of defense. We want to, number 2, connect through likes and not digital profiles, tour their world, make it fun. Ask them to spend a few minutes showing you one of their favorite games online. What is Minecraft? Show me this. It's like a digital show and tell. You get insights into their online behavior, you play some games with them, spend some time with them. We want to make it fun, and you can do family fun YouTube night, or get them to show you different things. then you always want to have an open door policy. There's always time to chat, no matter what. If they have some kind of issue, remind them that they can come, and remind them often. No judgments, no punishments, no immediate device confiscation, and that your love and support are unconditional, no matter how upset or terrified you are. You can always talk to me. No topics off. If they think you're going to take that device away, that's the most, a lot of times the most important thing in their life, and they will do anything, which means they're not going to tell you anything. So it's important that you set that, and you talk about that often. The other part of that is just keeping it cool, calm, and collected. When Cyber Faria herself told her story, she talked about, she was going to meet this guy. She was really young. She was going to meet this guy who was in his 40s, and she packed a bag and was going, and her mom knew something was going on, and she kept a lot of secrets from her mom. She was really good at tech, and the way her mom talked to her when she told her what she was doing, she was so calm, cool, collected. She let everything out. If her mom would have came at her a little bit heavy-handed, and kind of lost it, she probably would have gone to this predator. And that's what set her life the way it is, and she's one of the top cybersecurity teachers out there right now, which is super cool. The next, be all ears, listen more and lecture less. Hold off on safety lectures for a bit. Some people be curious about their online experience. It's kind of like you're being a mentor, experienced friend. There's some solo missions. Make a digital list of the platforms they're using. And then Google's fantastic, YouTube's fantastic. How do I set up parental controls on? And you can go through, the iPhone now has some great parental controls. There's other controls that you can add. There's controls on all different games. And it doesn't have to you don't have to put a lot of time into it. 30 minutes a week, a Sunday or something, and learn how to do that. And then find teachable moments where that you can, maybe it's in a movie and you see somebody being extorted or something like that. Or you see something in the news, casually just inject small pieces of wisdom about online safety. And, that sort of thing. You see somebody that maybe shared their address or their Snapchat map is on or something like that. It's just ways to teach. The goal isn't to scare them. It's just to make, to build that relationship with them. And again, I've seen lots of experts, and some of the best advice is along this lines, because we know that we go hardcore, and kids are so smart. When there's some good, my son is working in a school, and he's always amazed how the kids find their ways around. That they're given computers and laptops, and there's all these things blocking, and they get around anything. So trying to outdo them, if you're a tech person, maybe, but most of us are not on the level of our kids, and so the best advice is to build that relationship with them. So I'm just gonna, just a final reflection, and then if there's any questions. To me, we're living in pretty extraordinary times. We've never been more technologically advanced, but we've never been more disconnected. We carry the power of artificial intelligence in our pockets, but we're really struggling with rising anxiety, loneliness, depression, addiction, division, hatred, and violence. Our youth are growing up in a digital landscape where image is everything and attention is currency, but where real connection, truth, and self-worth often just feel out of reach. There's an arms race to develop smarter machines, but we're losing the ancient and essential ability to sit quiet, to feel, to listen, to simply be, to connect to our true self, which is a place of unspeakable power or unshakable power. We are seeing growing political division, violence, and hatred online and off. but what we're truly witnessing is a spiritual disconnection from each other, from our land, from truth, and most importantly from ourselves. We're scrolling more, but we're understanding less. We're consuming more content, but we're creating fewer real conversations. We've outsourced our knowing to algorithms, while forgetting that the deepest truths, the ones that guide and heal, have always lived within. It's time to come back, to reconnect, to remember that we are more than what we see on the screens. We need to raise our children so they can see clearly through the noise. We need them to trust their gut. We need them to know their inherent worth. And know that wisdom lives in the land, in their lineage, and in their own hearts. So let's teach our children to think critically, to slow down, to question, and more importantly, to go within. Because when they know who they are, they cannot be sold a false version of themselves. And when we know who we are, we cannot be divided from each other. Every spiritual wisdom, tradition, ancestral and psychological is pointed us inward. The message is not new, it's just been drowned out. Technology is not the enemy, but it's also not the answer. If we want to protect our children not only from digital threats, but from forgetting their value, their spirit, their purpose, we must model something deeper. Stillness, connection, respect, critical thought, and most importantly, a return to our inner knowing. So I'm going to close this conversation with a guided message rooted in Indigenous and universal truths. It's called You Were Never Far. Sit, be still, let the land hold you. Let your breath return to the drumbeat of the earth. Now listen, you were told to look outside, to search in churches, scrolls, and screens. But the ancestors whisper, you already carry the medicine. The drum has been beating inside your own chest. The sacred fire never left. You were told spirit is far, in the stars, in the sky, in someone holier than you. But the elders say, Creator walks with you, in the mist that rises from the lake, in the silence between the words, in the blood and your bones. Be still and know you're already home. Close your eyes, not to shut out the world, but to remember the one within. You are the sacred breath. You are the cedar, the bear, the feather, the flame. You are the prayers of your great-grandmothers woven into your being, like sweetgrass, soft, strong, and sacred. When you wonder where to go, go nowhere. Just sit. Let the wind teach you. Let your body remember. Let your spirit rise like smoke from a smudge you didn't know you lit. You are the fire your ancestors prayed for. The medicine is in the land, and you are part of the land. The answers are not out there. The answers are in here. Your heart is a drum, keeping the rhythm of the old ones. You were never far, you just forgot to listen. So now, sit and remember. Thank you everyone for joining today. If there's any questions, pop them in the chat or feel free to ask. There's some parental guides for Roblox. Awesome. Aurelia Native Women's. We'll get that to you. A toolkit for our chapter. Great. I don't know if I have time. There's echoes. Anything else? All right. Yeah, there's some fantastic parental guides for most of the apps. I think Roblox right now is a very hot topic, and as well as Snapchat, and they are being pushed into making better parental controls, and there's some guides about that as well. So hopefully get that out to you guys. Anything else?
No, I can't think of anything, Matt. That was really wonderful. Thank you so much for just like acknowledging how challenging it is for us parents, how fast things are changing. Just how difficult it is to keep on top of this, but and thank you for bringing all those tools just to give us some ideas about how to reconnect and meet our kids where they're at. I'm hoping that we can just post our survey in the chat again for anybody listening in and viewing now or later. That survey will be up for a short time, just so that if you're not watching this live stream with us at this moment, but maybe later this evening or tomorrow, we still would love to hear your feedback and your perspective, and just share any requests that you have for future Indigenous Women's Health Talks. So take care, everybody. Thank you so much again. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Bailey. It was nice seeing everybody today. And we have a thank you from Lori out there. Take care, Lori. Take care, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bamapi.
Bye.